Okay, I think, yeah, we got sound.
Oh, we got sound. Okay, great. So we're back.
No people yet.
What's that?
No people.
No people yet, but we got sound. That's all right.
I'm gonna send out the link onto it.
Okay, yeah. We should have our millions of followers joining at any moment now. So again, we'll give it a second just for everybody to jump on if you're just joining us. We had some technical difficulties. So going to get started here in a minute. Yeah, we're good.
We're good, we got 4.
Okay, all right. So thanks all for being patient and waiting with us. We'll give it a minute, but what I was starting to say is we started earlier. Just go ahead and take, and especially now while we're waiting for everybody to jump back on, just take a couple minutes and maybe just share a word or 2 or 3 or a sentence about what you're grateful for. This is a challenging time for many people. Isolation can be difficult. Some people are enjoying it. Just very kind of different views and opinions on the current situation that we're facing. So again, just take a moment or 2, and if you're new to YouTube, the bottom right somewhere on your screen, you'll see a little chat box. Travis is here, just kind of monitoring that. So again, just share some things that you're grateful for while we're waiting for everybody to join in, and then we'll start with the meditation practice. We get so set on time and things being a certain way, and technical difficulties. These last 10 minutes are the biggest problems we have to deal with, and I think we're in pretty good shape right now. Life constantly throws us challenges and difficulties, and some are minor, like technical difficulties, and some are, pretty intense and pretty severe. And really the question is, how do you respond to circumstances that arise in your life that really force you and challenge you to push yourself to maybe a place that you're not used to being or not comfortable with. And we often get very comfortable in our routines and our daily lives, and times like this where our whole world is just kind of turned upside down, and it can really shake you up. Your whole life's going to be that way, filled with different challenges and obstacles. So as I keep talking about, these are great opportunities to really practice what we've learned through Buddhist teachings, to practice the patience, to practice loving kindness, to practice the generosity, and to be giving as much as we can to help those who need help. So it's really a beautiful moment to practice. So anything we got? Anyone grateful for anything? And then we'll get started.
Heather's grateful for one-on-one time with their kids. Jessica's grateful for technology finally working this morning.
I knew somebody was going to say that.
And for sunshine, friends and family. Penny's also grateful for technology, and they shared can you imagine trying to write letters back and forth to people right now?
Right. Yeah, that would be interesting.
And then Nick shared grateful to still have a job currently.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, great. So we'll go ahead and get started. Just again, start a little bit late with the challenges from the computer, but we'll start with a meditation practice. For those who may be joining us the first time, or maybe new to meditation, a couple things to tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you, right? You won't float away. You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice, meaning don't ask yourself, is this working? Is it not working? Are you doing it right? Are you doing it wrong? We're just going to sit and we're going to breathe. Don't judge your practice, right? We judge things all day long, what we look like, what we wear, what we eat. We're constantly in these judgment modes. And this is a time to really go beyond judgment and just abide in sensation of breath. Don't expect anything. This is really important. If you're sitting there waiting for some grand aha moments or deep realizations, you'll probably be pretty disappointed. So we're just going to sit, we're going to breathe. Posture, if you are on a cushion, Often it helps slide into the front third, pushing the stomach forward, allows the back to straighten. Shoulders are relaxed, hands can be on the knees or in the lap, whatever's comfortable for you. If you're on a bench or a chair, if you're seated, just try to sit up straight. If you're on a couch, please try to stay awake. Try not to lay down. This is a practice of waking up, not going to sleep. So do your best to stay awake. I will guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. And starting with the eyes closed, if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. And throughout the practice, you'll hear sounds inside the room, outside. So not distractions, not disruptions. Simply what's happening around us as we sit. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Gently guide the attention, focus, to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath. And as the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it. Release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Where's your mind? Lost in thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Keeping the mind alert. Aware of each sound. each thought. Each physical sensation. Yet concerned with nothing but sitting, breathing. Breathing in, follow breath in. Breathing out, follow breath out. Learning to be comfortable in stillness, in quiet. Wanting nothing but to sit and breathe. And with the body still, rested. And the speech quiet, aware of all sounds. And the mind learning to settle. Know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. No one else could be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And as you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move. Most important with the practice of meditation is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize how you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how you sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around you or anything else for that matter. It's everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external situation. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. Here's a human being no different than anyone in this room who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. And what that means for all of us sitting here right now is our entire life is filled with things that happen. We react. More stuff happens, more reactions. That's what we get. The practice of meditation is learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. For most of us, the way we responded to the last 15, 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to everything else that's happening throughout your day. So all we're working on is closing the gap where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. It's not an easy practice, it's not necessarily fun, but it's free. Meditation, Buddhist practice, it's learning to be kind to yourself and everyone else you encounter every moment of your life. This is not easy. Becoming aware of what you think and what you say and what you do each moment. This is a challenge. I've never found Buddhism to especially early on, make my life easier. It often makes things more difficult because it challenges you to respond and be differently from how you typically would. When you become very aware of all your thoughts and all your words and all your actions, and you try to live a life based on generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, and wisdom, that's extremely difficult. If you live your whole life greedy and angry and ignorant, if you lack generosity and you lack morals, and you lack patience, and you're lacking diligence, you're lazy, you have no focus, and you're very rarely wise, this is a challenge. If you're new to Buddhism, this is not the escape. The practice is to wake up. Wake up to your own level of ignorance, and to continue to cultivate a mind and heart that is filled with compassion and love for all beings. Very difficult. So I want to stop there. Just since we've got started a little late today, I want to make sure I allow enough time for questions. For me, that's always what I prefer to do, is just respond to questions that you might have, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with, and we'll use the rest of the time for that. So again, if you're joining us for the first time, the probably right side of your screen somewhere, there'll be a chat box. You can type a question in there, and Travis will share it with us all, and I'll respond. So we'll open up now to questions.
So someone asked, why does meditation become more difficult over time, not less, or is it just me?
The question of why does meditation become more difficult over time and not less, or is it just me? My first thought, initial thought, and probably eventual thought is, anytime you set something as this idea of gaining, or better or worse, then you're comparing one to the other. And you're living in a world of, in Buddhism we call it duality. And the Diamond Sutra, the Heart Sutra, really addresses duality. And that we suffer, the Buddha called this dukkha, and we struggle because this duality tells us we like this, we don't like that, we want this, we don't want that. And what often happens is we apply that to meditation as well, where we think that this is a good meditation or this is a bad meditation. This is a good moment, this is a bad moment. So for me as a Zen practitioner, and what I've really studied the most all these years is what's called beginner's mind. And that you approach each moment as if you've never done it before. Because the truth is you have never done it before. Not in that way, not in that time, not as that mind. So you may think you've done meditation every day for 10 years and have some idea or expectation that you're supposed to be better at it, or that it's supposed to be easier. But if you abandon this idea of being better or being easier, or being worse or being harder, and you just sit at that moment simply to sit, all comparisons go away. So personally, as a practitioner, I would never judge my meditation. I would never think it's harder or easier, better or worse. I would sit simply to sit, because you have never sat in this moment. Right? We started this 45 minutes ago. You're not the same person you were 45 minutes ago. You have 45 minutes of experiences that are completely different than they were 45 minutes ago. So be aware that when you start to sit, you might think that you're doing this again. You're not doing it again. You in this moment have never been in this moment, ever. So what you just did was the very first meditation practice that you've ever done. And if you're going to sit again tomorrow or later today, when you sit down, my suggestion is to say to yourself, this is the first time I have ever sat. And treat each time you sit as if it's the first time and only time you've ever done it. When you default into this idea that my meditation is harder or not as good as it was, then that's often a reflection of what you possibly do throughout the rest of your life, which is thinking, well, I like this and I don't like that. This is more difficult, this is less difficult. So just sit, don't judge it. Just be with the experience of sitting. And then when you're done sitting, you're done sitting. You know, it's like Forrest Gump when he's running. You know, one day he just felt like no longer running, so he stopped. It's a great Zen movie. Hope that helps or doesn't help. But either way, there's some thoughts for you. Other questions, meditation, Buddhist practice? You know, I had one more thought to that question, that part of the reason that it may seem more difficult for you is along the same lines of what I just shared, but it has a lot to do with expectations. And again, I see meditation practice really as just kind of a metaphor and a reflection of our lives, that if you've been doing this every day, like I said, say for 10 years, you may have some expectation that you're supposed to be better at it or good at it. And if you bring that beginner mind in that says, I'm just sitting for the first time just to sit, the expectations fall away. And if you think about that in relationship to your life, what expectations you may have in your life is nothing, most likely, how you expected it to be. But it doesn't change how it is. So for me as a practitioner, what I've learned, I think one of the most important things I've learned from this practice is to abandon expectations and just learn to respond to things as they are, not how I wish them to be.
So Martina shared, I struggle these days with judging myself, so unmotivated. Any comments?
Yeah. You're struggling these days with judging yourself and you're not motivated. You know, it's really easy to use the current situation around us as this grand excuse, period. This is just life. So you can't go outside. So what? So you can't go to stores or restaurants or places that you used to be able to go to the way you want to. Okay. Why lack motivation? Again, I think at times like this for me, when you come back to Diamond Sutra, Heart Sutra, and you look at those teachings, there's this idea that the story, the illusion that we've created in our mind of what brings us happiness and joy and pleasure. And that illusion and that story that you've told yourself, not just you, Martina, but for everybody, has been shattered. The problem is not that the illusion has been shattered. The problem is that you have the illusion. The problem is you have this illusion that if you can live the life the way you think you want to live your life and go back to doing things that you think you want to do, that was somehow happy. I've listened, again, this isn't just Martina. I just happen to know Martina way too well, and that's why I prefer never to know anything about any of you. But if you, Martina, or anybody else, what I'm about to say, I don't want it to sound like I'm attacking Martina, even though she'd be fine with it. If you ask yourself, how happy and pleasant have I been for the last 6 years with all of this? Now you add on the current situation, and it's very easy to say, well, now there's this pandemic and I can't go places and I can't live how I want to be, and now I'm miserable and I lack motivation. It's just another excuse. Find motivation in cleaning your house. Find motivation in cleaning your refrigerator. Find motivation. Somebody made a comment about writing letters. Write some letters. Pull out a pen, pull out a piece of paper, and write some letters to people that you care about. Just do things differently. We have all been given this incredible opportunity to drastically alter the way we live our lives. As I always joke, if you show up here for me on a Saturday morning at 11 o'clock, that means things in your life are not how you want them to be. That's part of the human experience. Our lives were difficult 3 months ago, 6 months ago, 5 years ago. If we lack more motivation now, again, it's because we're telling ourselves this story that we need these certain things. Abandon the story. Be with things as they are. There are people and places and things right now that need your help. When we make life all about us, that is when we lack motivation. When we practice what the Buddha taught of caring for others, that is where we find motivation. It's not about yourself. And even now, more so now than ever, are there people, places, and things that need you and need your care and need your love. So find a way to give to them. The phone calls, the emails, the letters, whatever it might be. Sit on your front step and wave and say hello from 6 feet apart to somebody who walks by. You just have to change the way you're perceiving the world, which of course is so simple. And you'll find that motivation again. But if you're trying to find motivation in the life that you were living before, the way you were living it before, that's gone. But same thing about the question about meditation. Stop comparing how things were 3 months ago to today. Again, that's why you're lacking motivation. Wake up in this moment and respond to this moment without comparing it to what it was like 3 months ago. And you'll find motivation. in some ways, you should be more motivated now than ever. So I hope that helps.
So Ben asked, the concept of ego is almost always associated with something negative. Can you talk about the positive side of the ego, if there is any, and how it can drive me to be a better human being?
So the concept of ego, you're saying is almost always tied to negative. Can I talk about the concept of ego and how it can be positive and drive you to being a better person? Is that right? Okay. So I don't know who or how is talking about the ego being negative. I know in the past I've shared a lot that when I first started looking at Buddhist teachings, I used to think and I used to say to myself, I need to destroy the ego, because I thought the ego was the thing that caused all of my suffering. Now, in Buddhist teachings, there's this idea of the teaching of non-self, that we suffer because of this attachment to the sense of self. The simplest way for me to sum all this up in the last 5 minutes we have is that we exist. We are human, we have these physical bodies, we exist, we just exist completely differently from how we perceive ourselves to be existing. That's the illusion that we have about ourselves, that we're these permanent creatures that are going to be here forever. We are here for a short period of time, we've come together, and then we'll cease to exist. And we created a story about ourselves that we think is real. And this feeds into our ego. You know, the Buddha taught very clearly that craving and desire leads to suffering. But it's also taught that without the craving to reduce or end suffering, you wouldn't be sitting here right now. So your ego drives you. For me, again, when I look at ego early on in practice, I used to think I had to destroy it, I had to shatter it, that it was something bad. My ego has me sitting here right now. But how do I view that ego? Is that ego all about me, or is it about others? So what I've learned through this practice over the years is not to look at ego as positive or negative, but just look at how it exists in relationship to your surroundings. If you're viewing your ego as negative, then that means your ego, that sense of self, that story, you're spending a lot of time maybe causing harm to yourself and others. And maybe your ego isn't so pleasant. But if your ego is being used to bring loving kindness and compassion and joy to others, if your ego is bringing happiness and a sense of gratitude to yourself and others, then yay for ego. But this idea, and again, I've referenced this I think 3 times already, but I know just from personal experience that once I stopped thinking that the ego was this terrible thing I had to destroy, I then started to just look at, okay, how do I use my ego? Because it's not going away. No matter how many books you read on non-self, that is still yourself reading a book on non-self, trying to get rid of yourself. So you're not getting anywhere. I don't, as a practitioner, try to abide in the place of non-self. I try to recognize how much of myself and story am I wrapped up in? And how much of my ego that is being used potentially in a way to harm self and others am I wrapped up in? Be aware of your ego. Be aware of yourself. But my suggestion is not to be confused. You know, a lot of people new to Buddhism, 3 chapters in, they'll read about non-self and they'll think, okay, I have to get rid of myself. You can fly around the world 1,000,000 times, sit on mountaintops all the way in Nepal, wear a bunch of cool Buddhist stuff, and there you are, yourself. So you have an incredible opportunity now to practice cutting through the ego, cutting through the sense of self, because so much of what you like and enjoy to do has been ripped away from you. This is an incredible opportunity to practice. So explore your own ego. There's no, I don't find a blanket answer to that because we all have our egos impact our lives differently. But get to know it and understand that your ego, as I said, drove you to sit here, drove you to ask that question. Now then, what will you do with that question and the response? How will you use your ego in your life? So with that, I'm going to close. We'll join palms. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained be transferred to those who need it most at this time. So just a few quick announcements before you all head off. Thanks for being here. My name is Jeff. I'm a Dharma bum. We opened up this temple 14 years ago to be a bridge to introduce Buddhist practice and meditation to local folks. Those of us who lead, we're not nuns, we're not monks, we're not gurus, we're not masters, we're not teachers, we're just practitioners. We do our best to take our understanding of Buddhist teachings and put it into terms that hopefully make sense to those who show up. Since we've been closed now since March 12th, we have moved almost our entire schedule online on YouTube, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night. I do the intro class on Tuesday. Alex does the Metta Loving Kindness on Wednesday, and Travis does Dharma Bum Basics and Meditation Thursday. Those are all on YouTube. Everything else is on Zoom. All of our recovery classes are going every night. Weekend mornings, our family group is meeting. Our college group is meeting. Our teenage group is meeting. We also now are starting again. Bob, who's been doing our Sunday afternoon class, putting Buddhist philosophy back into mindfulness, I think is the title. He's picking that up again tomorrow, 2 o'clock on Zoom. So just go to the website, thenarmabums.org, and you'll see the schedule, the calendar there. Click on it, and when you open it up, you'll see the events or the class, and inside that we'll have the details on how to join. I'm going to try to get a newsletter out today, but one thing, Zoom is continuously upgrading because they've had a lot of problems. So my understanding now is that you must upgrade your version to Zoom 5.0, I believe it's called. But the last few days, some people had trouble on Zoom, and I think that's the main reason. So all our settings are set open with the login info and the password if necessary on the website. So pull that up. Other than that, people keep asking me, when are we opening? No time soon. So continue to enjoy as much as you can from our online schedule with YouTube and Zoom. Our Tuesday afternoon group is there now with Natalie leading it. Our Monday through Friday is leading it. Monday morning, 8 and 8:30. So I still say this is an incredible time for us to practice everything the Buddha taught, and probably one of the greatest moments of your life to practice. It's a very sad and difficult time that the world is dealing with right now, and an incredible opportunity to practice wisdom and compassion. So continue to please stay home, please stay safe. It's really dangerous out there, and people are dying every single day. So let's not take that lightly. Let's practice patience. There's no rush to get back to the madness. So please take care of yourself, and in that effort, take care of others. Thanks for being here.